Welcome to another episode of Short Stories You Should Read. Today, After The Denim by Raymond Carver. Don't worry, no spoilers here, just inspiration for your next reading adventure. Raymond Carver was a master of the modern American short story, but his work is definitely an acquired taste. The stories are often minimal, spare, sometimes even uneventful, on the surface at least. They're sketches of everyday life, usually everyday disappointments, but drawn with such perception and subtlety they can be considered melancholic mini masterpieces of the mundane, and that's a lot of M's. In the same way that a few simple Picasso pencil strokes captures something essential and eternal about a dog, a few lines of Carver's prose can do the same for humans. This story starts with an elderly couple, Edith and James, on their way to a bingo night at a local community hall. We start to get a sense of Carver's celebrated ear for dialogue. Characters in his stories speak how people actually speak. "Lots of cars tonight," Edith said. "He said there wouldn't be so many if we'd been on time." "There'd still be as many, it's just we wouldn't have seen them." She pinched his sleeve, teasing. He said, "Edith, if we're going to play bingo, we ought to be here on time." "Hush," Edith Packer said. As well as feeling edgy from running late, James is further thrown off balance by some new faces in the bingo hall. The Packers hurried to their regular table, but a young couple occupied the Packers' usual places. The girl wore denims, and so did the long-haired man with her. She had rings and bracelets and earrings that made her shiny in the milky light. Just as the Packers came up, the girl turned to the fellow with her and poked her finger at a number on his card. Then she pinched his arm. The fellow had his hair pulled back and tied behind his head, and something else the Packers saw, a tiny gold loop through his earlobe. James is unable to enjoy the evening. He suspects the young couple of cheating at bingo and becomes fixated. The author is very skillful at suggesting, without spelling it out, that there's more to his malaise than just what is happening in the here and now of the story. After a quiet, brief revelation from Edith, we start to see that there is broader context for the way James is feeling. If we're prepared to read between the lines of this minimal, crisp prose, we'll understand how Raymond Carver views his own flawed characters, with deep compassion. He went to the refrigerator. He stood in front of the open door and drank tomato juice while he studied everything inside. Cold air blew out at him. He looked at the little packages and the containers of foodstuffs on the shelves, a chicken covered in plastic wrap, the neat, protected exhibits. He shut the door and spat the last of the juice into the sink. Then he rinsed his mouth and made himself a cup of instant coffee. He carried it into the living room. He sat down in front of the TV and lit a cigarette. He understood that it took only one lunatic and a torch to bring everything to ruin. Perhaps we're used to thinking of stories as places where dramatic or fantastical things happen. But isn't it true that most of our lives are mostly taken up with mundane activities? Isn't that the real backdrop for most of our quiet, personal moments of fear, hope, or revelation? He smoked and thought of that sauntering, arrogant gait as the two of them moved just ahead. If only they knew. If only someone would tell them, just once. He'd tell them what to expect. He'd tell them what was waiting for you after the denim and the earrings, after touching each other and cheating at games. Recognizing elements of ourselves in fiction is a validating feeling, even if the people are very different to us on the surface. Under the skin, we share so much. Our inner experiences belong solely to ourselves, but great books can bridge the gaps between us. We listen to sad songs and we feel less alone. We read Raymond Carver's short stories, and poignant and quietly despairing as they may be, we feel connected. Have you read After the Denim? Track it down, experience it for yourself, and let me know in the comments what you think. Remember, The Portly Raven is an ever-growing collection of video essays about books. Take a look through the back catalogue, you're sure to find inspiration for your next reading adventure. And don't forget to subscribe for more short stories you should read.